and her new husband, Paris of Troy, have engaged in single combat for her sake, while the two armies ring around to watch. The passage implies that Helen should stop weaving old events and move on to recording the new ones. Whether or not Helen herself actually wove episodes of the Trojan War, we know that Greek women sometimes did produce large storytelling cloths, and that some of these tapestries were kept in the treasuries of Greek temples, where they could be seen upon occasion. Greek temples, like medieval cathedrals, served as storehouses for cultural treasures, much like our modern museums. It is just such textiles, covered with stories of Orion, the hunter who still chases the 7 Pleiades sisters across the starry sky each night, Cecrops, the snake-bodied progenitor of Athens, and various barbarian battles, that Euripides has Ion use for his temporary banquet hall. Penelope's famous cloth, which she wove by day and unwove at night to fool her suitors, was almost certainly a story cloth. Because we are told that it was for her father-in-law's funeral, most people interpret the phrase funerary cloth, used by Homer when he tells the story in Book 2 of the Odyssey, as a shroud or winding sheet, but she could have woven that in a couple of weeks and wouldn't have come close to fooling her suitors for 3 years. Homer's audience would have known that only the weaving of a non-repetitious pattern, such as a story, is so very time-consuming. But we, who no longer weave, or regularly watch others weave, are more easily misled. We even possess pieces of 2-story cloths from Greek tombs in the Black Sea colonies, where textiles are preserved more often than in Greece. We also know from Athenian records that young women periodically wove a new woolen garment to dress the ancient cult statue of Athena on the Acropolis, and that this robe had seams on it. 2 priestesses, called the workers, Ergastinae, helped by 2 young girls chosen for the privilege from among the noble families of Athens, wove the saffron-colored robe over a period of 9 months. This weaving took so long, even though the statue was only life-size, because it had woven into it, in purple, the important story of the battle between the gods and the giants. During this horrendous uproar, a mythical account of a major volcanic eruption, probably the explosion of Thera between 1600 and 1500 BC, Athena was credited with saving her city, Athens, from destruction. The entire festival, occasion of the new dress's presentation, was apparently a giant thank you for salvation, and the story on the dress was of focal importance. Records of history and mythohistory on textiles are not uncommon elsewhere in the world. The Hmong women who recently escaped to Los Angeles from Cambodia are busy making picture cloths in a traditional style, depicting the incidents of recent wars in their homeland, since they do not know how to write. Pile rugs, knotted recently in Afghanistan, sometimes show Stinger missiles downing flaming Soviet helicopters, and the conflict between Harold of England and William of Normandy, later William the Conqueror, was immortalized in the Bayeux tapestry. Ironically, it is not, in fact, a tapestry, which is woven, but an embroidery, which is sewn. This 231-foot wool-on-linen strip also shows a remarkable natural event, the passing of Halley's Comet, datable to April 1066. Third and last, cloth and clothing often invoke magic in their encoding. Within this magical world, fertility, prosperity, and protection are 3 of the most common objectives. We have seen that at least one modern descendant of the string skirt, the Greek Zostra, has moved from being a signal that the woman could bear children to being a magical talisman to help her do so safely. The hooked lozenges woven on the modern string aprons from Serbia, Macedonia, Albania, and Romania, and embroidered on other parts of the women's costumes from these areas, are also to promote fertility. Another motif on these same costumes that seems to be very old is the rose, a symbol of protection. George Bowling furnishes an interesting argument that Homer portrays the Trojan princess Andromache weaving specifically protective roses onto a cloak for